In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so excited to be introducing our first guest. She's here today to talk to us about her new book, Live Your Happy. Get out of your own way and find the love within. So let's welcome to the show, Maria Felipe.
Yay! Love it. Thank you so much.
Hey,
how exciting. It's so interesting. It's so beautiful to hear my book title be announced. It's like, I don't know. I haven't had kids, but I'm sure it feels like when you're going to have a baby or something. I don't know.
Well, going through that whole book process is exactly like birthing something, it's really just a creation in itself. And gosh, and your book is available today, so people can go out to all major retailers and head over to Barnes & Noble or their local bookstore and pick up Live Your Happy today, which is very exciting.
Yeah, and also, I know there's discounts going on with it, and I have a free bonus also on my website. You get a free talk that I gave back in Costa Rica that talks about chapters in the book and how the book came about, the history of the book. So it goes more in detail in regards to how everything happened. So people can actually go to my website and pick up those freebies as well. So, it's always fun to get free stuff. I do.
Oh, yeah. And I know that they could go, it's mariafelipe.org, where they can go ahead and sign up for your newsletter. They get a free PDF, intro that talks about the book as well. And then you have the videos and other great information. They can follow you on your book tour and all sorts of, just fabulous stuff. You're always just like all over the map. My goodness.
Yeah, for me, I always say whatever serves the purpose. I'm not so much about expectations or success in the world or the numbers of the book. It's more what serves the purpose, So this whole thing about having a book, it looks like you need to do this and do that. But I really make it fun, and I do things that complement for it to be truly helpful. Whatever I put out there, it's really to higher consciousness. It's really to support the book and help people even understand it better. That's really the goal. I always say the goal is peace first,
Mm-hmm.
I just love that.
Well, and I can't wait to dive into your book. I mean, it's so, I found it to be a very easy read, easy to understand. There are principles in here that you could pick up and just start using today, and there's lots of fun stuff too. So I've got to ask, and you talk about this in your book, you've got, basically it talks about your journey, and there's been some very amazing things that have happened in your life. I mean, you're so amazingly talented. So how does Live Your Happy work in correlation with the Course of Miracles? Or does it?
Well, yeah. Well, they pretty much go hand in hand. I mean, you can go ahead and put the Course of Miracles, and when you get your Live Your Happy, you can just put it right next to it. I mean, it's really a handbook for the Course of Miracles. I mean, the book could be called Live Your Happy, but it's really Live the Course of Miracles. The Course of Miracles is very, as you know, and as many people probably that are on the call or don't know the Course, if you do look into it, it's written in a different type of style, and it's very deep and very healing. And what Live Your Happy does, it really makes the Course, gives you the language to bring it to a very easy space, a practical space, a space where you can really practice the principles of the Course in every day of your life. There's so many concepts of the Course that are so powerful, and one of them is how to understand your mind. How to discern between the voice of love and the voice of fear, the voice of Holy Spirit, the voice of ego, the voice of light, the voice of darkness. You can call it whatever you want. And the Course of Miracles really gives you the opportunity to understand those two voices. And what I do in my book is that I really make it very clear what those two voices are and how to discern and choose constantly the voice of love in your mind so you can live in a happy place, in your happy state. The Course in Miracles has a beautiful lesson called God's will for you is happiness. And it also says your purpose is to be happy. Like over and over in the Course, everything is always about happiness. It's your inheritance. It's where you come from. It's what you are. Right? So then the Course would say that in the separation, we forgot that. So my book, what it's doing is instead of looking for an outward journey of happiness, it's really looking within and knowing you have it all already now. And let's work from there. And let's get our happy on and do the happy dance, you know?
I agree. And, you know, and it's great because you take us on this journey and there's so many things that you have gone through that people can really relate to. You know, when I was reading your book and you talked about having this, fabulous French boyfriend who just adored you, and then you were featured in People magazine in Espanol, that he went and bought like everyone he can get and then met you at the airport with it, and yet you still didn't feel worthy of, his love because and I was just real impressed with that because a lot of times, when we get to certain levels of success or certain pillars in our life, we feel like we should be happy because we've reached all these, but we still have that emptiness inside because of that lack of connection.
Yeah, and that gets me very emotional now, just talking about it, because I think this is something that in a society we all suffer from,
Yeah.
This thing of this constant looking for your happiness outside, looking for your source outside of yourself. Like, when I get this job, I'm going to be happy. When I get this relationship, it's going to solve everything. And it's this endless vicious cycle that I call the ES, the ego BS system, in our minds that makes us believe. I actually call it the ego BS abundance system in the book, actually. That we believe that outside is our source of happiness. And I remember just really suffering a lot with this, my whole career as an actress and in television, in TV entertainment and hosting television shows and booking jobs out of like 500 girls. I would get the job and getting that and not feeling happy. I thought that was just so interesting to me. Like, why do I feel so empty? Right? Or it was like one relationship after another, looking for my love outside of me in a man and romance, like wanting something outside of me to complete me. It was a very sad, lonely time in my life. And the reason for that is, and this is something that I really share at a deep level in my book, is that there isn't anything, no matter what it is, what accolade, what's outside of you in form that will ever fulfill you at the capacity that you are already fulfilled already in your inheritance in God, in that happiness, in that state where you already naturally are. There's nothing outside of you that can give you that. So when I was doing my show, I was riddled with fear, and instead of being excited about it, I was just projecting all my insecurities outside. And then I felt like my Spanish wasn't good enough for the show, or if I was always really nervous when I was filming my shows. Like, I wasn't at ease. I remember being in the hotel rooms, traveling, I travel all over the United States, to film these shows live for WWF. And I was riddled with fear in the hotel room, just, oh my God, like on my knees, like just scared. And it's because, again, I was looking for a false sense of happiness outside of me that I wasn't even aware that I was doing.
Yeah. It's interesting how our ego really kind of tricks us into this sense where we feel like, oh, we'll be happy when we hit these certain marks. And I really was impressed with how your book outlined those, and we won't go into all of them, because of course, everyone has to go pick up your book, Live Your Happy. When you talk about, that state of happiness being outside of us, and something that we have to, when we hit these marks, hey, we'll be happy then, like how out of 500 girls you're chosen, and still you're at this level of kind of like, and a lot of that's that ego coming at us.
Yeah, and also it's very interesting because, with these popular things with The Secret and things of manifesting, or if you think about things, you're going to make them happen, or if you're in a happy space, you're going to make things happen. And in my book, it's a little bit different. I come from a different space because I was actually at the worst space in my life. I was so depressed at that moment when I booked that job. So I manifested what appears to be true success in the world when I was feeling like crap. So let's just think about that for a second. I feel it's not talked about enough. I learned from that your innate spirit, it's going to go through whatever it needs to go through anyways, regardless if you're positive or negative. You're going to go through that experience. So I experienced what was supposed to be success, worldly success, but I didn't create it because I was being positive. I created it, my spirit created it so I can heal, right? So I could come back to truth, so I could remember what my source is, that it doesn't come from a TV show, that it doesn't come from my French boyfriend, that it doesn't come from being in People magazine, and ultimately now that it doesn't come from my book. That's really powerful to see, because I feel that we get caught up in this manifestation cycle of constantly trying to create, and what it is it's the ego's ploy, because you're always going to want more and more and more and more and more and more. It's never going to be enough. It's like a false happiness. It's false abundance. Now, I'm not saying that you don't want the car. I'm not saying that you don't want the mansion. I'm not saying, I like beautiful things. I live in a beautiful apartment. I have a great car. I really enjoy these things. I love them in the sense of, I appreciate them. At the same time, I'm very aware that they don't define me. It's not my source.
Yeah.
It's different. The energy is so much more different.
I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, I've been self-employed for many years, and I started off in insurance, and I'm like, I'm going to get all those awards. And I got them, and it was like, now I've got a box of awards. What am I going to do with these? It didn't give any extra happiness having those or reaching those accolades, And so this comes to the next point in your book, you talk about practicing the F word. So what is that, and why should we do it?
Practicing the F word. Marianne,
yes.
I knew that you were going to ask me that, because, you're so sweet in this sense, you're like a little girl, what is that? What is the F word, right?
Well, I got more questions than we have time for, but we're having so much fun. I figure this is a good place to go.
Yeah. Well, the practicing F word, the F word in reference to the book, it's not what you think it is, naughty, everybody, whatever you're thinking. Although that's really good too, but I'm just kidding. It is forgiveness. It is forgiveness, which is based on the Course. Forgiveness is a pretty big topic when it comes to the Course. It's really everything. It's really what brings you back to your happy place. It's one of the key ingredients. It's like the key to happiness is forgiveness in this world that we're living, in this circus that we're living. It's a very helpful tool. So forgiveness based on the Course is actually remembering the love you gave in the past and all else. Only remembering the love you gave and the love that you received in the past. Everything else needs to be forgotten. Kind of like that. That's the quote. And I'm not talking about the forgiveness of the world. I mean, when people hear forgiveness, they think, oh, forgiveness. I need to forgive this person because I have to be a better person and forgive this person. Or I have to forgive this person because they have Jesus and I don't. Or I need to forgive them because such and such. It's like you forgive in the world because you believe something really happened. Or believe that something is really happening right now, that there's a problem, right? So that's why you forgive in the world. You forgive because you make very real that somebody has done something to you. That would be the worldly forgiveness. The forgiveness of the Course is so powerful, so radical. It's actually one of the hardest things that took me to learn, which is you forgive the person for what in reality they didn't do. And I was like, what? When I first heard that, I was like, what do you mean? And I want to know more about this, even though this sounds very weird, right? You forgive the person for what they did and do. Wow, okay, how am I going to follow that one? So what I learned was, and what made forgiveness very easy for me, and I explain it in my book in a very easy, practical way, is that the first thing of forgiveness is that you take responsibility. There isn't anything more powerful to the in your happy place than to be in your power and be responsible for all your perceptions. Even if you don't want to, just do it, just give it a try because it really works. It's like really being responsible and owning your stuff. Like, wow, I'm responsible for this projection. I'm responsible for what I'm seeing now. And it's not like you're making it happen, like you're making that person act up. But the Course would say you're responsible for your experience of it. So are you experiencing it through joy or pain? Are you experiencing it through Christ's vision, which is holy vision, which is, the vision of Holy Spirit, or the vision of ego? That's your choice. So that's why you're responsible. That's why you're always responsible. Then the second step is recognizing that everything is love or a call for love, period. Even though it looks distorted. Remember, that person has lost their mind. That person has forgotten who they are. They're lashing out, or that problem is happening. But in truth, it's just a moment of insanity. And you can't also not say that you haven't been there and done that. You've been crazy too. so why are you going to judge somebody which you've actually been there as well in some capacity, right? So what you do is that you forgive the person for what they didn't do. It's kind of like I say in my book, you kind of wipe the slate clean, like a chalkboard. You make it white, and then you just really hold that person in Christ's vision. Then you give it over to Holy Spirit, and then you say, Holy Spirit, I give you over this grievance with this person. I give you over my perception of this person. I give over this fear that I have about the IRS, or the fear that I have about money, whatever it is. You just give it over to Spirit in the third process, and then you trust. You trust fully that you're going to have a change of perception. The most important part about the forgiveness process is really trusting that you will be shown and that your perception will change. And the reason that you really forgive the person in your mind, that second step, is because you really want all that stuff that you've made up in your mind about that person is really a ploy of the ego so that you can continue to be stuck and continue to be unhappy. But if you forgive the person, you don't even forgive them for them. You forgive them for yourself. You forgive them for yourself. It's like one time I was doing this forgiveness process with my dad because we were going through this grievance, and I was really just upset about him. And I had this revelation in my mind when I was trying to forgive him in my mind. And I was like, okay, I forgive your dad. And I was going in my mind, and I was like, we heal in the mind of God. We heal together in this oneness, in this love. And then I started to recognize that I was just really forgiving myself. It's such a beautiful feeling. I'm like, this is not even about my dad. This has to do about my thoughts about my dad, which come from me, of which I can heal and remember truth again. So that's practicing the F word. It's really radical and powerful. Change your life.
Well, and the reason I brought that up is because because it's fun, number one, and it's such a powerful piece in your book. And I've got to tell you, I really enjoyed. You have for our listeners, you have a forgiveness process towards the end of that. And I found that when we ask for help, as suggested, I could really feel a shift take place. And it's just that willingness to be to look at things differently and ask for help.
Marianne, I love that you bring that up because that's essential, and basically that is a very big thing that I talk about in the book, which is giving things over to your inner friend, to your best friend, to the Holy Spirit, whatever word resonates with you, your inner wisdom, constantly. Like that is very healing in itself. And what I always say is big willingness. The Course says all you need is a little bit of willingness and miracles happen. I always say all you need is a little bit of big willingness, a lot of big willingness to make things happen. At least for me, just because my grievances were so strong,
Oh yeah.
So when you have that big willingness to give it over to Holy Spirit, I love what you mentioned that, and I know that it made you feel better. I get that because I experienced that too. It's sometimes even instant that you feel better. You're like, wow, That doesn't bother me anymore. And it's because you let go of that thought. You let go of that thought cluster, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because it's us that are making, like, we are changing, and it doesn't necessarily mean the people around us are, but we are changing, you know, so then things shift in that way.
Yeah, and even more powerful is understanding that you have the power within you to heal. You have it. How about that? Because you have the power to change your thoughts. You have the power to choose Holy Spirit again. You have the power to choose love again. You have the power to let go of judgment. You have the power of owning your stuff and being responsible, right? So that is powerful. That is so powerful. It's like, I mean, I wish, like, in my counseling sessions, I love it because people come here, and it's not like they come here for me to tell them what to do. I actually let them know that they have the answer within them. And we do a process of which they come to me, and we work on them getting their own answer through spirit. And I help them really get connected with that inner wisdom so the answer could be given through them. Because I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I have suggestions and I can discern from outside, but it's so powerful to be able in this world to rise each other up and for all of us to recognize that we have the power within us. We have a voice within us that's so mighty that we know where to go, what to do, how to be. It's just been silenced by making this form, this material place that we're in so real that we've completely shut down this voice of such light and chosen the voice for darkness. So the time has come. The time has come. And that's what Live Your Happy is here for. The time has come for you to remember your capacity in the oneness, in God, you know, so that you can live your happy at a 10 all the time, consistently, with practice. You know, my book is all about practice. Like, you really have to do the work. And if you do it, it works.
Well, and I found that the processes that you had and the different suggestions and techniques were really simple. It's not like, it was simple and easy to follow. So it's easy to get into the book, read it, and start putting things into practice immediately. And for those that are lucky enough who are down in the Orange County, well, it's actually LA area, you're a reverend over at the Unity Church in Burbank. So they can go and listen to you and do your monthly service there. You know?
Oh, yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I speak the first Sunday of the month there. I do the 11 o'clock English service and the 1 p.m. Spanish service, and I'm usually riffing on the Course in Miracles and Unity Principles. And I'm actually going on a book tour for the book, and I start going on tour in May. And I'll be my first one is here in Studio City in California, and the Barnes and Nobles here. That starts the beginning of the book tour. And as you said, Marianne, on my website I have the book tour schedule that's starting to form now. Right now, I think out of Boston, New York. I'll be in Chicago, Illinois, Miami. I'll be in a lot of different places. So definitely check that out because there's nothing more beautiful than meeting people, you know?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
And hugging them, you know. And my book actually has an official dance. It's called the Happy Dance. So, it's with Justin Timberlake songs. So I literally made up a dance choreography for the book. So we do it at the bookstore.
Do you get into their happy dance? I think that's a great thing to do.
My book agent told me that I have to be the first author that has come up with a dance for their book. You know, what a marketing strategy. I said, no, I just thought it was fun to have a dance for the book, you know? So
well, it goes along with your message for sure, because it really, I mean, how could you not be happy when you're just out there dancing a little bit and just letting things go, you know? Not worried about, if you're kicking right when you're supposed to be kicking left. Who cares, you know?
Yeah, I love it. So every time I end, the talk, I always think everybody get up, and then we all do the happy dance together. And it's just so beautiful to see people from all walks of life. They all look different. Some people are older, some people are younger. Everybody coming together in their happiness and, raising consciousness. That's the whole point of the dance, is really raising consciousness, raising each other up and being in joy. There's this really heaviness about spirituality sometimes. And have to be so serious. It's like, let's be happy learners. You know? Let's be joy. Let's learn about being happy versus like the other way around. The other way around is already like the old model, you know?
Yeah, so it doesn't work for a lot of us. Yeah, I choose the happy part, you know, I'll go there. Without a doubt. So you do offer counseling sessions, so I'm sure you're just as busy as all get out, especially with the book tour and everything coming up. Are you still taking on new people for counseling? Do you do that over the phone, or is it all in person?
Yeah, I do. If you go on my website, it's called Work With Me, and it's usually on the phone. If you live in the LA area, we would have a conversation to see if we could do it in person. But I do it over the phone. It lasts about an hour and a half, and you can look up that on the Work With Me section in my site. There isn't as much scheduling options as there used to be because of my schedule. Although I still have, you know, availability. Especially now before I go on the book tour, and when I'm on the book tour, I'll be able to do some sessions as well. They're very healing for me too, you know. So, So for me, it's something that I would continue doing if schedule permits. But absolutely, yes. Also, just so everybody knows, because I know that this month in April, I'm having actually the big book party launch, which is going to be at Unity of Burbank, April 22nd from 6 to 9. I'm having the party where I'm going to have musicians and live music, happy dance, of course, and a book signing. So if you are in the LA area, you know, come and join us.
Oh, that sounds like put that in your calendar and make sure you're at the book launch in Unity Burbank for sure. Yeah, you've got to be there. Well, Maria, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today. I mean, you have really blessed us with your knowledge. I know all of our listeners can go to your website and look at, you know, the different locations that you're going to be and go visit you as you tour the country on your book tour. But, you know, thank you for being with us here today.
It's been a pleasure. I'm so happy to be able to join with you, Marianne. I'm so grateful for what you're doing. There's nothing more beautiful than collaboration in spirit and for the higher good. And I'm grateful for everybody that's listening in, and I'm happy to be able to join in the happiness together and heal our minds because we're worthy, right?
Yeah.
We're worthy.
Heal our life. We're worthy, and, you know, and live your happy. So you can visit Maria at mariafelipe.org. That's her website. Make sure to sign up for her newsletter, check out her events, and go visit her at one of the local events that she'll be attending in your neck of the woods. We're going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
I know we are unlimited, not only because I healed myself of chronic disease in only 3 weeks, but because I know what has helped thousands of my clients transform their own lives. My book, A Short Path to Change, 30 Ways to Transform Your Life, offers 30 easy and quick tools you can use to help transform any aspect of your life. Visit and subscribe to my site, JennyMannion.com, JennyMannion.com, for free gifts, including a guided healing meditation and the first chapter of my book. I look forward to offering you easy ways to help you get clear for the new year.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
Welcome to Moments with Marianne. Today we have a very special guest, Loyd Auerbach, and he's here today to talk to us about his new book, Psychic Dreaming. So welcome to the show, Loyd.
Thanks very much, Marianne.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. So, I mean, gosh, you've been highlighted on The View and all sorts of great shows. You know, and I was so excited to hear about this book, Psychic Dreaming, and so I have to ask you, what's the inspiration for this book?
Well, you know, this is actually, in some respects, not a new book. It's a revision of a book that I had out, 26 years ago now. It's hard to believe it's that long ago. It was one of 3 books I wrote originally that were under the subtitle of A Parapsychologist's Handbook, and it was kind of conceived just because of such a great interest that people have in the dream world, and of course, so many people talking about having had dreams that come true.
Well, and so I'm very curious how we've got the psychic part and the dreaming. So how does this come together?
You know, people are genuinely psychic. Most people have some degree of psychic ability, even though we don't really notice it or kind of let it lapse or have not developed it. But in the dream state, while we're sleeping, our inhibitions, all the things we've been educated and told about and have absorbed about in our beliefs of psychic experience and psychic abilities are gone. So all that stuff we got from childhood saying that these things don't exist, that mainstream science tells us it's all impossible, all that's gone because it's the dream state. So it's an altered state in which we can have a canvas in which, for which we can be psychic. We can allow those things to actually happen. Of course, the key is then remembering all that stuff that happened in the dreams.
So how do people differentiate when they've had a psychic dream as opposed to maybe, you know, just having extra spicy food the night before? I mean, how can they see what's happening in that dream experience as something that can be useful for them?
Well, as it happens, you know, for most people, I think it's probably when they get confirmation that what they dreamed about had either come true, and it was either something that was going on at the time or had happened just while they were asleep or outside their realm of knowledge and influence and understanding, and then they kind of run across the information. They wonder about how they could possibly have dreamed about that. Or they have a dream that actually comes true, whether it is a dream of, you know, everybody talks about disaster dreams, but people have precognitive dreams of very minor, mundane things. You know, they go to work the next day and something happens at work that they suddenly realize, well, wait a minute, I just dreamed about this last night, and I know almost exactly what's going to happen next. And that happens to people quite a bit. So that's one way. But the interesting thing is that once people start trying to work with their dreams and trying to recognize psychic dreams from other dreams, the universal answer I've gotten from just about everyone has been, it felt different. I knew that it was not a normal dream. I mean, that's what they always say. So there's something in the emotional context of the dream, in the remembrance of the dream, that you know it doesn't fit with even the spicy food dreams that you had.
Yeah. And so I've got to ask you, like, what set you on this path where you are today with, I know you're one of the lead people in this field.
Well, honestly, it was probably TV and comic books as a little kid. I've had an interest in this subject since I was very, very small. And the TV show Dark Shadows in the 60s really sent me, believe it or not, running for books at the library on vampires and werewolves, because that's what the show was about. But it also mentioned parapsychology, and having been a little science geek as a kid, I found those books, and I found that there were science books on parapsychology, on psychic phenomena. And it just captured my interest and continued through high school thanks to a couple of teachers and a neighbor who knew a couple of New York area parapsychologists, some of the people who became later on my colleagues and mentors. So I really kind of was encouraged in many, many ways, coming from a pop culture approach, though.
Oh, I think that's so great. I mean, I've seen energy since I was a kid, so I totally get it. It's kind of something that's in your blood a little bit,
Yeah.
So how is it? So let's say, we pick up your book. How can we use this to kind of, understand what it is that we're seeing and understanding in the dreams that we're having, and how can we differentiate which type of dreams we're having?
Well, the book does go over the kinds of dreams, well, I should say the kinds of psychic experiences or abilities that happen within the dream state, as well as talking about dreams in general. And in the book, I give some guidance, some very simple ways that you can learn to remember your dreams a little bit better and actually work with those dreams and start recognizing which ones might be psychic. But probably the more important piece here is a technique, a very ancient technique, which folks in dream work know very well, called dream incubation, where you kind of go to sleep, and as you're going to sleep, you not only tell yourself to remember your dreams the next morning, but you say, I want to have a dream about X, or I want to see what's going to happen to me at work. And very often, your psychic ability may kind of click in that dream. It's not a definite, because ESP doesn't seem to be fully controllable for most people, certainly not even close to it, but it does bring in a lot of open doors for being psychic in the dream state. And then when you remember them, the biggest problem I think people have is we do remember certain dreams when we wake up, but you really need to write them down or record them as soon as possible, because our normal waking up process kind of starts suppressing those memories pretty quickly.
And then that way they're able to capture that information and start to decipher, like what it is that just happened, Well,
and it's interesting, if you start even recording a couple of dreams, it's self-reinforcing. If you tell yourself before you go to sleep, I'm going to remember dreams, you will remember some more dreams. And the act of remembering them and even recording a couple of them here and there will actually cause you to remember even more. So it's a very, very much a self-reinforcing system.
Mm-hmm. So let's say that someone's had a dream where it was a past event, maybe a past reincarnation. How can that be helpful? How can they determine if that was something that is a reincarnation event or more of a psychic dream, something that they're supposed to decipher?
Well, the past life dreams are a lot more difficult because as adults especially, we have so much information from things we've read, movies we've seen, TV shows we've seen, magazines we've read, people we've talked to, conversations we've overheard without even realizing we overheard them, and, of course, the things we learned in school. It's all in there. And of course, dream work is all about working with how your own unconscious creates metaphors or stories in which to put your issues. So even if it's not a true past life, you can still typically learn from that story. It's trying to tell you something. I mean, that's what past life regression is all about also. Hypnotic regression is not good evidence for reincarnation. That's not what we look at in parapsychology for the better evidence for reincarnation. But it's great for working through issues or finding out what the issues are and even finding answers for yourself.
Now, I know in your book you talk about, out-of-body experiences. Is it, can you go over some of the tips in order to have that work in the dream state?
Well, this is, again, a little bit of a programming thing for people. So, of course, an out-of-body experience is the idea that part of your consciousness leaves your body or splits off or is projected out and can go to different locations. So you can actually program yourself to travel to a different location. The reinforcement piece would be to try to see if you had a dream about traveling to another location, let's say visiting a friend or going someplace that hopefully is going to have some activity when you're asleep, wherever you happen to be. You then try to confirm whether or not what you remember about that location, what you remember about your friend, what you remember about the event you may have witnessed in that dream while you dreamed going out of your body, whether that actually happened. So thankfully with the Internet, especially with things like Google Earth, you could do sort of a remote viewing type thing, but make it an out-of-body where you send yourself out of your body in your dream state, you go to a location you've never been before, and then you go to Google Earth and see how that matches up what you remember about the location. And again, that will be a little bit reinforcing. The other thing is if you do have a dream where you visit a friend and in the dream the friend looks at you and says, "What are you doing here?" or has a conversation with you, it's important to call the friend and see if that actually happened, because that happened to me.
Did it really?
Yeah. Many years ago, I was working right out of grad school, working for the American Society for Psychical Research in New York, and we were doing research with a psychic named Alex Tanis on out-of-body experience, which he could do on a very regular basis and kind of at will. And working with Alex kept on saying, it's time for you to have psychic experiences so you know what these things are all about. So his suggestion actually caused me to have experiences. And I had a dream about visiting a friend of mine. She was actually a student of mine in a parapsychology class, but she was a practicing psychic in her mid-40s. She had a daughter who was 18, and they were late birds. They didn't even get up till like noon most of the time in the summertime. So apparently around 3 o'clock in the morning while they were watching a movie, I popped in. This is when I was having a dream. And they had a conversation with me, and a couple of days later, I got a call from her, and it was like, "Are you ever going to call me?" And she started telling me about the dream that I had, or basically that I was there in their house. And both she and her daughter saw me. So, we have people who have out-of-body experiences, whether in the dream state or otherwise, are, on rare occasions, seen by people almost as ghosts. These are ghosts of the living, you might say. And so check in with your friends if you think you may have visited them in a dream is an important thing.
Well, and again, it's that repetition in getting your, it's like any good habit. It's training yourself to be able to have these experiences, and they're quite extraordinary,
Wow. Yeah. They sure can be. These are not experiences to be afraid of. They're experiences to kind of cherish, and it just shows us the range of human experience, and it's just it can be an amazing thing. And if you can kind of encourage yourself, think about all the things we could do, all the places we could visit.
Well, and I think it really kind of breaks some boundaries on what people think is possible. It's nice to be able to look at some of these examples of being out of body, lucid dreaming, and even you talk about telepathy, and I found that to be very interesting because a lot of people don't usually talk about that. No,
there is a cultural moratorium, I think, on people talking about their own psychic experiences. We're told this stuff is not possible. I mean, look at the number of big-name scientists who love to call this stuff woo-woo because it seems to make themselves feel better, who have actually no background and refuse to even look at the evidence. This is the biggest problem that we have in my field, is that when something is published, even in a mainstream journal, there's often a hue and cry against it from some mainstream scientists who, when they are asked by reporters if they have actually read their paper, they say, "No, why would I? It can't possibly be true." And that statement alone suggests that they are clearly not, A, open to it, and B, not thinking scientifically.
Yeah, definitely not, because if they were, they would look at both sides objectively before making any kind of statement like that.
Right. And some of the researchers, I have a colleague by the name of Ed May, who was actually the director of the remote viewing program the U.S. government had for many years, and co-author of another book that I wrote called ESP Wars about that program. And Ed was able to cajole several neuroscientists and other researchers into actually reading research reports in parapsychology for a 2-volume kind of somewhat academic work looking at parapsychology, and to their surprise, they admitted, it was nice to his surprise, they actually were honest and they admitted that there was something here.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, it's interesting. I know you kind of had this interest with me as a kid. I would see things all the time. I'd see my spirit guides and what have you. And as I got older, I felt like I needed a padded room, because people don't talk about that. And so when, but it's interesting. You'll have people that will come up and ask, hey, am I going to get this house I'm trying to buy or something?
Mm-hmm.
You give them information.
Yeah, so many people consult psychics. Yeah. Psychics, and then on the one hand, and on the other, they'll tell all their friends, this stuff is a lot of bunk. I have other people, over the years, I have heard ghost stories from people as soon as they find out who I am and my background, that I take this stuff seriously. I've heard stories from people at parties and in other circumstances and businesses and such that they tell me that they've never told anyone else. And on some occasions, they've never even told their spouse, and yet that same evening or that same day, I'll talk to their spouse, and that spouse will tell me their own ghost story, which is unrelated, and say that they've never told their spouse. So here it is, 2 people who are married who are afraid to talk to each other about an experience that they could share because they think the other person is going to think they're crazy. And
here you are, such a nice guy. They want to share it with you,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to think they're crazy right off the head.
Well, and there's a lot to it, and I think we live in such a great time where we can have these open discussions about this and not have to worry about, too much about people, thinking it's woo-woo over the top because, science is proving a lot of this stuff nowadays.
Right.
So,
right.
Well, okay, so gosh, I really love your book, and you talk about, dream work and dream weavers. What is that? What does that even mean?
Well, there are people who have been helping folks with their dreams and kind of leading dream groups, dream discussion groups. Montague Ullman, my late colleague, he was a psychiatrist and parapsychologist. He did a lot to bring a group dream work dynamic here to the United States, and there are folks like Gail Delaney and Patricia Garfield, who have done a lot of work. They're with the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And dream work is about the idea that if we work as a group, if you get in even a small group where you can discuss your dreams, you've recorded your dreams, you want to discuss them, people can ask you questions about what the dreams mean to you, and it's, you all become dream weavers in that sense of helping each other determine what your own dream meanings are, dream symbols. Those dream dictionaries that are out there are really not, I can't say they're worthless, but when it comes down to it, just because the book says an artichoke means something means that might have meant it to the author, but that's not what it necessarily means to you. And you may have dreamed about artichokes because you really like them, not because they mean anything.
Hey, that's good to know, because some of those people take those books by heart,
I know, and it's the problem that we have with it's the similar problem with schools of psychology. You have Freudians and Jungians who battle it out over what things mean, and really both of those schools of thought come from Freud and Jung, from their own particular imagery. So the whole idea, Gail Delaney does a great job of this in her books and in her work. The idea is that when you have a dream and are trying to figure out what things mean, she suggests things like looking at it as if you're an alien. You've never seen anything on Earth before. You can't name things. You can't call that piece of fruit that's yellow and slightly curved a banana because you don't know what a banana is. So if you have something yellow in your dream, rather than immediately jumping to the conclusion that it's banana or that steelwork tower is immediately the Eiffel Tower, let's describe what it is. Let's try to see what it actually might mean and what it represents in so many different ways. And this is very similar to what we do when we suggest to people to do things like remote viewing and remember their psychic information as well, because all too often we just simply automatically name things or categorize things, which fills in a lot of blanks without really thinking about it.
And so a lot of times do you have people go based on how, like you're saying, based on the feeling of the dream as, in regards to that in with the symbols that they get?
Emotionality is a major part of this. And there's also a vividness of the dreams. One of the other things that I should say about psychic dreams is that they tend to seem realer than real. That's another phrase that we get from people from time to time. And that's not the same as a lucid dream in which you're awake and are aware that you're dreaming in the dream. But people remembering their dreams or waking up from them know that there was something special about that dream. And in the dream work process, as people have this discussion, of course, more memory comes out about it. And really, the emotionality and everything else, it all plays into the process.
Now, I know that you talked about this a little bit ago, and you also mentioned it in your book about the importance of keeping a journal. Now, when people do they see like a repetition in patterns, or maybe the dreams are a continuation of a message?
Yeah, the dreams can be certainly repetitive, and some people have reported dreams that have kind of been so repetitive they had to report them to someone else, and it turned out it was a precognitive dream. And they can follow up, certainly on, first of all, dreams can follow up on your day residue, just leftover issues left from the day, from that single day, things that weigh heavily on your mind. We do truly sleep on things when it comes right down to things do play out in our dreams. We can role play in our dreams. We can try things out. So it's really, you need to look at this kind of as an overall pattern, but an individual dream may or may not be part of a whole mosaic. It may be an independent thing in and of itself, depending on what's going on for you that day or that week.
Whatever's happening, okay. Well, and so with all the research that you did through this, I mean, this book is it's such a great tool, and I highly suggest everyone go and pick up their copy of Psychic Dreaming. But with the work that you did with this, what was the one thing, I'm sure there's lots of things, but what was like one of the things that really stood out for you?
Well, in the book, and even there are a lot more that are not in the book, I had people from a survey from a previous book that I had done. I had people writing in their dreams that were psychic. And probably the thing that stood out to me more than anything else was how mundane most of those precognitive and other types of dreams actually are, the psychic dreams are. So we always hear people talking about a dream of some major disaster or something awful that's happened. But so many dreams that are psychic tend to be positive, full of positive emotion, positive events, or incredibly mundane. One of the ones I remember from the book was some woman who had a dream about going to her mom's house, and that a neighbor dropped by wearing a navy blue blouse and talking about just having gotten her tax refund. And she went to, and this wasn't anywhere like near April 15th, so she went to her mom's house the next day. And the neighbor did drop by, was wearing a navy blue blouse, and did talk about her tax refund. I mean, that's
just
pretty...
a little preview of what's coming.
Yeah, so these little things, that was kind of a real eye-opener, even having read other books on by my colleagues who had done research in the past, hearing from real people that they were surprised how often they had these little tiny mundane dreams that really didn't mean anything. But that's kind of what psychic information is. It's often very mundane, and that's why we kind of ignore it most of the time. So
have you ever gotten somebody that says, I never remember my dreams, or I can't ever remember them? It's that training tool for them to say that they'll remember it when they wake up. Is that part of what you suggest?
Even more than that, I've had people tell me that they don't dream.
Oh.
And they say they don't dream because they've never remembered a dream in their lives. And of course, we all dream. It's part of our process. And if we don't dream, it's pretty clear from sleep deprivation studies that we become psychotic if we don't dream.
Yeah. So that's not a good thing.
No. So, there's any number of things that can affect our remembrance of dreams. A lot of times it's when we wake up in these sleep cycles. If you wake up close to the time that you've just finished the dreaming stage, or you're in the dreaming stage, you're going to remember things almost, automatically. But sometimes if you wake up from the deepest stage of sleep, depending on what your sleep cycle is, when your alarm clock goes off, you may not remember any dreams the night before. So one of the things to consider is changing the length of time that you sleep, or playing with that, so you can see if there's any different remembrance, or if you do have recollection when you are actually waking up at different times in that hour and a half stages of sleep pattern. The other thing is really to tell yourself, to really program yourself at night. I will remember at least one dream tonight. And saying that to yourself over and over again, instead of counting sheep, perhaps, is a good way of actually putting that idea in your head. And it does help, and most people do report that they can remember something at that point.
So it can work for anybody. Loyd, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today. And before I let you go, where could our listeners connect with you? Because I know, gosh, you're working with all these great groups, and I just want to make sure we point them in the right direction.
Well, they can connect with me through the Forever Family Foundation. That's a group that I am president of, a nonprofit organization, which is foreverfamilyfoundation.org. Also through the Rhine Research Center. I teach courses through them. And, in fact, there'll be a dream course, a psychic dreaming class we're developing coming up probably starting in May. And that's Rhine, RHINE.org. And as we're recording this right now, my website is down, but it should be up by the time the psychic dreaming is out and about, and that's mindreader.com. Of course, people can also find me on Facebook or on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm at Prof Paranormal.
Wow. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today, Loyd. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Marianne.
You've been listening to Moments with Marianne with host Marianne Pastana. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and listening. If you'd like to learn more about the show and the upcoming show guests that we have for this month and for months to come, you can visit my website at momentswithmarianne.com. Feel free to send me an email and drop me a line. I'd love to hear all of your comments and feedback in regards to the show. So thank you for being part of this great community and family. And remember, make every moment count.
Join us next time for Moments with Marianne, when host Marianne Pastana brings another inspirational gifted leader to help us grow. Tune in every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Moments with Marianne, when the Dream Vision 7 radio network is at 1510 a.m. Boston. Or catch Moments with Marianne every Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern Time by going to dreamvision7radio.com. To learn how Marianne started her business from the ground up, visit mariannepastana.com. Don't miss this, and remember, make every moment count.